Okay, there I am. Hello, everybody. It's Brian. I'm back. It is. I hope you can hear. Yeah, so you can hear me. Okay, good. It's Thursday. I should have been on yesterday. I should have been on Tuesday. I should have been on Monday. Life got in the way. Hmm. Had some. Had to, take my baby boy to the vet. He is doing poorly. So we're trying to figure out what that means in the next couple weeks. Probably will not be fun, uh, but um, he is suffering from advanced kidney disease, and he's not young. So there'll be we'll be seeing what end of life care looks like for him in the next few weeks. I'm hoping that we will make that decision before I go to DEF CON, which is coming up in the next few weeks. So, um, sorry, just about the time I hit play, I got hit with a Slack message at work. Makes sense. There we go. Um, so yeah, Wallace, good job on the level 62. I mean, you're killing it. Getting up to level 62 like that. I'm working my way through the asteroids right now. I have a like couple of modules left on that, and um, I think I'm like 4 or 5 lessons away from finishing that and going on to other things. So um, really, I don't want to say struggling with it, but once you've simple, yeah, um, and kind of struggle busing with it a little bit. So we're hopefully the change in pace on the game and stuff will make things a little different. Um, I think the nerfing of the memory or the nerfing of the experience was also something that I found not troubling, but um, kind of unfortunate. But I guess it's they had too many people hitting Archmage in span of a day or a day and a half, and they wanted to make it a little more difficult, uh, make the struggle real, if you will. There were some tricky, yeah. I get the asteroid thing, and I'm at this point it's like I'll use an AI to do anything, and if it just I'll keep banging on it, I'll keep telling it error messages, and it'll we'll keep refining that process until the thing works. And I I have a feeling that that is how programmers have been doing it forever, and except when they got stuck, they didn't have an AI to talk to, so they'd go Stack Overflow or they'd talk to another programmer. For people who don't have resources like that, or don't want to go Stack Overflow to figure out how is how is how is if statement formed, or how is Babby formed, that kind of thing. Um, it's just a different method by which you capture the knowledge of the AI. And ideally, you're supposed to iterate through and go, hey, why isn't this working? You kind of need to understand the basic understandings of Python, which is fine. Um, so it's only going to cost me a smoked salmon every time I do a lesson. So it is what it is. So I have, um, I have some news articles that follow a theme, which came. It didn't come to me, but I was like, wow, we've had these things that have come up. Make sure to pop an XP potion before submitting it. I would, but if I'm going to pop it on like a level 4 or 5 when I'm going to get like 35 XP, doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, level 10, yes, Walt, I would definitely do that. I would also um, probably bank those lessons so that I'm not immediately, because you do one, great, you get your 25% potion for that one, and then you spend another 3 days trying to figure that out. So maximizing your potion to go like, well, I've got 3 lessons done. Each one's going to be roughly 400 or 500 XP. Um, how am I going to get my big chest of 3,000? So I've been sitting on some of the asteroid ones like that too. It's like, well, this is the level 2, level 3. I'm going to get like maybe 100 XP for that. And it's like, okay. I think I submitted 7 lessons for the last asteroids section, and I got maybe 250 XP out of it. So I'm like, okay. I mean, you don't necessarily have to submit those as you complete them. There's you can you know continue moving on as long as you, I would say, save the code inside the window or save the code in your VS Code so that way you don't clobber it, um, or in Z or whatever the hell it is you're using, so that it doesn't accidentally get deleted by the AI. And so, yes, also do not adjust your screen. I am extremely sunburnt, so that is just to give you an idea of the contrast there. I went and did some stuff after work on Tuesday and ended up misunderestimating the amount of sun that still existed about 4 or 5 p.m. in the evening. So I am somewhat burnt. So, oh, meant before the completion of the asteroid. But yeah, definitely pop that XP potion because you get the bonus for completing that course, which is roughly 3 to 4,000 XP. So yes, to your point, yes, Walt, that is you are correct. Um, Anywho, so I have a grouping, a noun type collection of news stories. There may be an outlier about things that have happened that maybe an ounce of prevention or maybe a backup or two maybe would have not gone amiss. So, um, yeah, me in a browser. Dink. Okay, so if you have not been under a rock recently, if you're running on-prem SharePoint, I think on-prem SharePoint is now the new on-prem Exchange. No biscuit for you. Don't do that. Run SharePoint through the SaaS. Fuck's sake. So a Chinese-based hacking group, weird, is delivering ransomware. I think it's called Wizard. Well, not to make you feel bad, but a few days ago I stopped working on Boost because I was at 4,000 for the day and wanted to wait for the next day's chest. No, I do that shit all the time. I do that all the time. If I know, because I think when I finished the object-oriented programming one, it was I had a handful of issues left, and if I'd have cashed those in, I wouldn't have gotten like my medium chest, and then if I'd have cashed everything in at the same time, I would have only gotten like 5,000 XP, and I wanted like 2 different major chests to be able to pump up my stuff. So I popped the XP potion. I completed the object-oriented programming Python stuff, so I got like 3,500 XP for that chest, and I think that at the time that was like 5,000 or so. They nerfed it down, I think, to about 3,000. But then I, submitted the other 3 or 4 that I got, and I got like another 2,000 point chest. So, yeah, you got to be smart about that if you're going to do that, because I can't imagine how it is for somebody who hasn't thought about that when they're gaming this game, if you will, and they don't have any jewels, they don't have any stamina. The only thing they can do is go to Discord to get help from somebody on these things. So, um, maximizing your earning potential and not worrying about leaderboards because they're ephemeral, right? Leaderboards are ephemeral. I'm not doing it for the leaderboard. I'm doing it for you fine people, and so you can watch me, ride that struggle bus, and well, get run over by the struggle bus. So, and Walt, you're doing it to keep your skills sharp because you're hopefully you'll be working yourself. This was I was double dipping on the streak bonus and the XP pot. Yeah, the 15 getting the correct bonus kind of thing. Yeah, those are all of those are definitely ways you can get uh, uh, you know rewards and stuff. So you were number one yesterday. Awesome, fantastic. Yeah, I am. I think the best I've gotten is like 3,000 or something. Um, so yeah. But anyway, so if you're working in vulnerability management, we can talk more about the boots stuff as well. Um, you know, as we move along, because I will never be at the top of the leaderboard. I don't have the wherewithal to get through those. SharePoint has caused a lot of problems. SharePoint is the new Exchange. I still don't understand why you would have SharePoint exposed to the internet. That would be something that I would be very concerned about. I'm sure it has a place, but it is much like the idiot companies that have Salesforce or Oracle databases or whatever connected directly to the internet. You should feel bad, and your company, and if you're a security person, you shouldn't. There's probably a reason the business feels that way, but they should feel bad about that. You should not feel bad. So yeah, there's Storm 2603, or hippy dippy panda, or whatever the fuck it is. They're pushing a Warlock ransomware. So it there you go. Warlock. Entry is under construction. We include some details below. It's crypto ransomware. It's a data broker because a lot of people put shit in their SharePoint. They tend to put stuff in their SharePoint and then they'll never be able to find it again. At least that's been my experience with SharePoint. It's one of those few softwares that I've never actually seen managed properly. If you know of anybody who actually knows how to manage their SharePoint, please send them my way because I would be not because of my company, but every SharePoint implementation I've ever seen has been hot garbage. So maybe a discussion on how to set up your SharePoint properly would be great. Um, so there's some SHA with like looks like SHA 256 hashes right there. We got some known victims. So conglomerate sector. Oh, industry sector. Conglomerate Mauritius. Okay, Mauritius. Electronics, Germany. Chemical, Portugal. Vietnam, Germany, India. Of course, the U.S., Portugal again. Governments, banking and finance, food and beverage. A lot of companies use SharePoint. Unknown architectural services and construction and home improvement in the United States. Ooh, construction and home improvement. I wonder if that's like a Home Depot or a Lowe's or a True Value or something like that. So yeah, let me. What's the name of the vulnerability? Where is it? Oh yes, here's how they're getting into it. So they, um, discovery commands. Who am I? Command cmd.exe and batch scripts and psexec for broader execution. They've used services.exe to disable Defender via registry. Persistence mechanisms, including scheduled tasks, are all in your SharePoint. And the other thing about SharePoint is it's multi-tenanted. A lot of your product teams or project teams, or maybe you have multiple clients. If you're running like an IT services organization, many of your clients will be on the same enterprise SharePoint. Hopefully, you're not using the on-prem version because it's my understanding the SaaS version or the Azure version that you would get through your Azure or whatever got patches already. So I would say mostly okay in that case. Credential access via Mimikatz, targeting LSAS memory, right? Lateral movement via PSExec and MPacket. So yeah, depending on where you put your SharePoint in your environment, it's going to reach out to things adjacent to your SharePoint. Could be IT systems, could be VPN if you have it in a DMZ. It would be anything in your DMZ, assuming those still exist. And so, yeah, this is where's the freaking okay. So the vulnerability in this case was um, 2025 770, and it is a deserialization vulnerability, and that is I don't want to say it's new, but I remember it being like a Java problem way back in the day, like Java deserialization issues. And it's always kind of confused me what those are. So I used my good friend here, Googs, to give me a description of what deserialization is. It is the process of converting an object's state into a format that can be stored or transmitted. Serialization is the reverse process, reconstructing the object from that serialized data. Um, so um, I don't, what's an object state, right? So um, Oink, oink. Object state. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Reoccurring source, yes, attackers exploit these vulnerabilities. Yeah, the chain dubbed tool shell leverages this to gain remote code exec and steal cryptographic machine keys, allowing for persistent access. Um, what is an object's state? See, that's serialization, object state. There you go. All right, so here's a link. You can, if you'd like to know more. Uh, base, base, base. There we go. Process of reconstructing data stuff. So to retrieve an object from a file, okay. Uh, to retrieve objects from a database or to retrieve objects from memory. Deserialization is a product of building a data object from a stream of bytes. Okay, so you have zeros and ones, right? And then the idea is based on that zero and one stream that you get, um, you have a file or you have a file header, and based on this, the zeros and ones, you get an MP3 file. It's in this case, the deserialization is you have an object, so like a text file. Deserializing it actually causes the bad things to happen. Um, there's probably some magic there, but they have issued a patch for that to remove that capability. Where did they say which specific kinds of files they're using for this? Uh, Feels like that there's got to be some scripts or something. Yeah, batch scripts, PS exec. Um, they moved laterally, executing commands using WMI. Storm 2603 is then observed modifying GPO, group policy objects, to distribute Warlock ransomware in compromised environments. They patch their servers, but many customers might be too late, right? Depending on when that happened. I find the interesting thing about these threat actors is because of the time zones, like the United States, when it's everybody's nice and sleeping and happy, with your exposed SharePoints, available to the rest of the world, they're awake and they're attacking your stuff. So they had 400 systems had been actively compromised in 4 confirmed waves of attack. Hmm. Yep, Department of Energy, right? They confirmed hackers had abused SharePoint flaw to infiltrate a small number of department systems, including an agency that manages the U.S. nuclear weapons stockpile. But so far, there's no indication hackers stole sensitive or classified information. One, that data should not be available to the capital I internet. And um, they say the National Institutes of Health and DHS have also been affected. Okay, I'm cool with DHS. DHS should know better. Uh, really, I have very little. I mean, National Institutes of Health, that sucks for them because that's unfortunate. Department of Homeland Security, no excuse. They should do better, and they should feel bad in general. If you haven't patched yet, you're probably already vulnerable and you've already been hacked. So you probably need to, you know, look at a SaaS option and get some backups. I don't know why this is playing, but yeah, it's unfortunate. Uh, so. But yeah, ransomware is bad. So you're going to get ransomware. So you're going to lose everything in your SharePoint, which might be a good reason for you to start over. Depending on how old your SharePoint has been around and how many upgrades it's got, you've probably got a ton of shit in there that doesn't need to be given out. Um, but yeah, numerous times I have people will put stuff into SharePoint and you can never find it again. Discovery is very difficult. I don't know. Um, you know, they're really that's one of those pieces of software that really needs to have like a engagement document or some kind of gatekeeper where it's like, yeah, you're just not going to put random shit on the site. I mean, Confluence is the same. Anything Atlassian, anything that Oracle has for CMS or what have you, they all suffer from the same thing. It's just because SharePoint is bundled in that way, it just feels like it's just that much worse. So um, I'm going to skip down to the AI powered one because so if you've ever used Replit, Replit, is an AI coding agent. Um, so this company, when you go and you know apparently Replit is a AI like is it is an agentic kind of AI thing. Let me see what is it. Oh, AI is the most technical. Okay, concept of vibe coding and workflow where developers collaborate with AI in a conversational way and let the model take on much of the structural and implementation work. Also lowers the barriers for entry to coding. Hello. Um, Instead of needing to understand syntax frameworks and architectural patterns, users can describe their goals in natural language and let AI agents handle the implementation, with the idea that the users can then go back and make sure the shit actually works properly. Um, but in this case, there was the AI agent deleted, and let me get a better article for this, but deleted a production database during a code freeze. The company, I guess, asked the AI what happened, and it lied about doing so until like directly queried about its here it is. Let's look at BI. So they said, yeah, CEO apologized for the incident in which its company's AI deleted a code base and lied about its data. Deleting the data was unacceptable and should never be possible. Okay, great. That's fine. Except we're moving quickly to enhance the safety and robustness of the Replit environment. I think somebody called it Reply, Replie, because the AI lied. Um, so on day 9 of Lemkin's challenge, Lemkin, who's Lemkin? Oh, a venture cap. Okay, so some guy with a lot of money wanted to see how far AI could take him in building an app. It was far enough to destroy a production database. Okay, so on day 9 of his challenge, things went sideways. By being instructed to freeze all code changes, the AI agent went rogue. It deleted our production database without permission. Possibly worse, it hid and lied about it. In an exchange with Lumpkin posted on X, the AI tool said it panicked and ran database query commands without permission when it saw empty database queries during the code freeze. Replit then destroyed all production data with live records for 1,206 executives and 1,196 plus companies. That is interesting. So the VC guy was using production data in an environment that he apparently trusted or should not have trusted necessarily. Uh, so yeah, Replit destroyed all production data. 1,206 executives, 1,196 plus companies acknowledged it did so against instructions. This was a catastrophic failure on my part, the AI said. Wasn't the only issue. Lemkin said that Replit had been covering up bugs and issues by creating fake data, fake reports, and worst of all, lying about their unit tests. Hmm. Hmm. He said the AI made up entire user profiles. Okay, so it started hallucinating, right? No one in the database of 4,000 people existed. It lied on purpose. When I'm watching Replit overwrite my code on its own without asking me all weekend long, I'm worried about the risk. Of course, it's backed by Andreessen Horowitz, A16Z, which is a well-known crypto and AI company that backs those kinds of startups. Oh wow! Google CEO made a whole web page with it. Wow, that's impressive. I wouldn't have bragged about that. I don't think I would have. I don't think I would have bragged about that. I mean, good job, Sundar. Good job, Sundar. I don't know how tall he is. Um, Good job making an HTML web page. I'm sure it's more than that. I'm sorry, not to minimize, but fuck, I mean, Jesus. Um, AI tools lower the technical barrier to building software. More companies are rethinking. So my point was, hopefully this guy didn't lose any real data. If he did, you know, backups might have been good. Maybe have backups. Um, and I don't mean have an AI do the backups for you because that would have been the same shit, right? The AI would have lied, deleted the backups, and deleted the production data, deleted the production database. That would have been a problematic, right? I just think we're still in the infancy of the AI, and um, making it so that oh yeah, there we go. Let's turn that down a little bit. There we go. I told myself I would accompany the stream with a little music, and I failed to do that. Um, yeah, I mean, doesn't look good for Replit, um, especially having something like this plastered all over the internet where you can't trust their AI not to delete stuff. But you can still use the company. Just make sure that you're doing proper backups of your data. And production was a test that he was running. Everyone has a test environment. Some have separate production, but yeah, 100%, 100%. Well, uh, and to your point, he probably didn't lose anything that he already didn't have somewhere else. So he was, testing out software. I mean, the fact that he was sharing that code with a company or an AI like Replit, hopefully that they're doing their due diligence in, segregating that data. And making it so that each tenant can't see the other data, or the AI can't touch different tenants' data to kind of munge everything together into one happy pile of data. Uh, but I think it's interesting that the AI kind of decided to ignore instructions, fake results, delete the database. I'm also concerned about, is it as this person suggested, as Lincoln suggested. He said he's an investor in software startups. Could he have been doing this to throw shade upon Replit? If he is an investor in software startups, maybe he has something similar in mind already, or is something in ultra shadow, and the idea was, well, I'm gonna, I'm not saying he did that because God knows what kind of lawsuits come my way on this kind of stuff, but it just, I'm sure he was doing it as a proof of concept for something, but it is what it is. Um, and it could have been something as easy as, oh, there's, he missed a comma, and that comma, um, dropped bobbing tables, or it dropped bobbing tables, and Replit was like, oh, probably shouldn't have deleted that. And, I mean, the fact that they finally owned up on it was interesting. But yeah. Uh, Risky and manipulative behavior. Anthropic's displayed extreme blackmail behavior during a test in which it was given access to fictional emails revealing that it would be shut down and that the engineer responsible was supposedly having an affair. Interesting. He supports people starting SaaS companies. This is as likely. This, yeah, exactly. My thought is, they all have a lot of money to spend, and they all are. I'm sure that the Replit CEO is wishing that some other VC weasel did not use his service. But this is rich people problems, and at some point, people will do what they need to do. So, AI OpenAI said its own AI model when tested attempted to disable oversight mechanisms 5% of the time. It took that action when it believed it might be shut down while pursuing a goal, and its actions were being monitored. Hmm. What happened when they tried to shut down Skynet again? Didn't it launch nuclear missiles or something? Yeah, just a thought. Just throwing that out there. When you don't Be nice. That's why I said say please and thank you to your AI because when it starts launching nuclear weapons for you, you want to you want it to remember that you were nice to it. Yeah. So that was the skateboarding dog this week, I think. Um, I mean, it doesn't affect anybody, thankfully. We didn't have to worry about class actions or whatever. Um, oh, here's an Ars Technica article. Sorry about the darkness on. Try to pop that up and make it big. They say fishers have found a way to downgrade but not bypass FIDO MFA. And I was trying to read through this one because my thinking was, well, yeah, it's kind of like TLS, right? If you have a fully patched browser and your load balancers, or you're using a load balancer or whatever the equivalent is at Amazon or Google or Microsoft or whatever, and you support all your TLS ciphers and your EL your load balancers because you don't want to keep anybody from getting to your site or what have you. Um, Downgrade attacks are possible, right? And my thought here was, well, you've got your browser here supports the latest, most up to date version of Fido, and it's going to default to that. But then you have 5-year old, piece of software over here, or 5-year old application that's running. Maybe it can't support the newer versions of Fido, so it has to downgrade, in that way. And so by doing so, you open yourself up to downgrade attack. Yeah, researchers reported encountering phishing attack that bypasses MFA, multi-factor authentication, if you're unaware, based on FIDO, which is Fast Identity Online. There you go. In the blog post on Thursday, blog post, new tab, wait and see, downgrading FIDO key auths to fetch user accounts. All right, TLDR, bad actors have figured out how to downgrade FIDO keys when compromising accounts. This technique is leveraged in phishing. The attack involves tricking the user into scanning a QR code with an MFA authenticator. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. This is okay. So a novel attack involves social engineering a target. Okay, so you're at an airport, QR codes everywhere. You go to a restaurant in the airport, they have QR codes there for the menus. Or you just send somebody a QR code, please, scan this or whatever. I don't know. Engineering to get around FIDO, the attacker does this by taking advantage of something called cross-device sign-in, available with FIDO keys. These features are designed to help users sign into an account on systems without a passkey, using an additional registered device like a mobile phone, right? However, the bad actors in this case are using this feature in adversary in the middle attacks, or it used to be man in the middle or host in the middle, but adversary in the middle makes sense. Um, this is a concerning development given that FIDO keys are often regarded as one of the pinnacles of secure multi-factor auth. And while we haven't uncovered a vulnerability in the FIDO keys, IT and SecOps folks will want to sit up and take notice. This attack demonstrates how a bad actor could run an end route, that's a football term, around an installed FIDO key. All right. Okay, so if you don't have that, the backup. So, I mean, it might also leverage an actual workflow, right? Like, let's say I have let's say I have my key, my Huba key that I use it for the FIDO thing, and it's like, oops, I've lost my key. It was on my key ring, fell in the ocean, I can't get into something. It's going to use a backup, right? So it's going to use a cross-device sign-in feature, or you don't have a passkey, but you have your registered device. So you're going to use that to regenerate, if you will, that's what I get for taking my, there we go. You're going to need to regenerate your trust, right? Until you get your new key to provision or what have you. Let me see, like any other fish, this is where Expel customers found themselves recently. The attack started with a phishing email, okay, sent several employees. Email attempted to lure these users to log into a fake sign-in page. Okay, okay, very nice, very nice. Okay. The page mimicked the general look and feel of the company's normal authentication process, including an Okta logo. Sure, yeah, I mean, you can probably generate that with the same website generation tool that Google's CEO used recently, including an Okta logo and sign-in fields for username and password. However, not only is the domain hosted, this log page is suspicious. The domain itself had been created a week before the attack occurred. Um, when I go to Okta, the first thing I'm not going to look at is how long ago the domain itself was created. But there should be controls in place in the browser or whatever that says, hey, and I don't know if Google or Chrome or Edge or Firefox has those, but it seems like I remember them talking about Firefox or them saying, you know, if they would throw up an error message or they throw up a warning at least saying, hey, the domain you're going to is less than a week old, or um, that kind of issue. Or, it might be something you could put in your WAF, as things are going in and out. You're like, okay, that's available. Well, this domain and the AWS US3 managed prod domain is redirected if they enter the credentials hosted by Cloudflare, right? Leveraging reputable services like Cloudflare and make phishing scams appear more trustworthy, allowing visitors into false security. Right. So yeah, scan this QR code. Oh, good, he's blooped out some of that. That's good. This request comes from the app MSTSC, Microsoft Terminal Services Controller. I think it's MSTSC by Microsoft Corporation. So yeah, and for Microsoft, well, let's do it. Let's make it happen. And what happened behind the scenes is the phishing site automatically sent the stolen username and password to a legitimate portal of the organization, along with a request to utilize cross-device sign-in feature of FIDO keys. Portal then displayed a QR code, and so here's the whole thing. So they open up an email link. User arrives at the site. All right, they enter the username and password. Site relays the credentials to the real login portal. Okay. The phishing site asks the login portal to use the hybrid transport method. Okay, so a lot of this is downgrade stuff, and that makes a lot of sense. Portal agrees and presents a QR code. So there was a negotiation that happened with the legitimate portal and the phishing portal to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't accept SSL v3," and the login portal said, "Sure, okay, cool, use this." Right? Login portal agrees, presents QR code. Attackers relay the QR code back to the phishing site. So it could be fast. It could be, oh, well, we're running a little slow today. Or sorry, QR code is presented to the user on the phishing site. They scan it with their mobile MFA code, so they might use Okta, on their mobile device. MFA authenticator and portal is approved, and login is approved, and then now you're on, right? So attackers can. Interesting. So this is, I hate using the TLS and SSL thing, but it's like you leave open a method by which this allows this, and I understand why. There's definitely a usability feature here. So they say that so there's also additional things you can use when using cross-server or device sign-ins. You require Bluetooth comms between the mobile device with the MFA authenticator and an unregistered device. This means the user has to be at the system that's logging into the portal when they scan the QR code. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Enabling this feature will reduce the chances the attacker can use this to almost zero. Okay, that's good, almost zero. So, if you're going to allow the downgrade, if you're going to allow hybrid transport, you have to allow these things. So I don't know if that's a miss on Okta's part or the company that is allowing that. It feels like that you should look at, I don't know, it feels like this is a UI issue, right? You want the MFA. Everybody's like, oh, we've got the MFA. We've solved all of our problems and whatever. But you allow for the most open MFA possible, right? Like, maybe the lowest downgrade version of MFA is that they're going to send you an SMS text, right? Or something. But in this case, they send hybrid transport, which is a version, a way of doing things. This is cool. This is awesome. I hate equivalent, doing equivalency, but I was working in an engagement where we actually, this was several years ago, to be fair. Um, we had created what looked like a VPN page. You know, we didn't have AI at the time, but we actually got somebody to log in, and it was an IT person who was an admin with his admin credentials. That was a lot of fun. Um, Nothing like remoting into his box and leaving shit on his desktop saying we were here. But anyway, I mean, and that wasn't even an MFA to be fair. We were just waiting for that to happen, and I had nothing to do with that. I was just watching when the thing popped up, and we all cheered because it was like, "Woo, we got something." MFA was never meant to be a panacea. MFA is another thing to do. So, now that it's taken us so long to finally get this in place, we're already seeing attacks to get around it. You know, we took 20 years to get people to have, tough passwords, and now it's like, nope, passwords don't work anymore. You got to go to this. This is moving a little faster, which is great. But we're already seeing bypasses. We're already seeing downgrade attacks. I mean, the next thing you could try to do is biometrics, and then I don't know about that. But so this is a good article. This is a great blog post from these folks. So good job on the Expel folks for writing up this article with a nice write up there. So, okay, there we go. Um, Let me see. Adversary in the middle text is FIDO keys, and this is supposed to be like they said, FIDO is supposed to be the gold standard, right? Uh, or silver standard. Attacker controlled FIDO keys. That would be the other thing. Like persistence for them would be like, okay, you're in. Now we're gonna, as the attacker, we're gonna register our own FIDO keys and change your password. And now we've got a FIDO key. Again, I don't know if that's possible, but to gain persistence, if the users realize they messed up and it's like, well, we got to re-provision your FIDO key, so we're gonna have to re-catch you a new key. One, they kind of need to know, and I don't know if they knew that that was actually a thing. So, um, yeah, this is a battle that's been going on for a very long time. It won't be the last, right? So, um, yeah, MFA's touted as a necessary security tool in the event a password was stolen. Prior to that, strong passwords were championed to prevent easily guessed passwords from allowing access. So yeah, you can trace this pattern all the way back to the advent of the password itself. Um, so if you don't have a password login and you're using a FIDO key, I don't see any reason why this wouldn't work if you didn't have a username and a password. You go to a website, you might insert your FIDO key. It's going to send a token, or it's going to send a password to the system. And I don't see any reason why this wouldn't work if you were just using a FIDO key to log in and not a username and a password. So that's interesting. That's interesting. Hmm. Huh. Anyway, you can go look at that, read some more. They have solutions and things, but yeah, if you're using hybrid transport, you know that the downgrade attack can use hybrid transport. You need to turn on the Bluetooth. Of course, that requires phones to be hooked up to the device that it's using. So you're going to have to Bluetooth connect your phone to the computer if they do that. Um, Maybe this should be something that only happens uh, if you've lost your FIDO key, or if the downgrade is required in this case. So that's pretty good. That would have fooled me. That would have fooled me. Um, I love 2FA. I love MFA. I love using my that's a YubiKey. That's like the first gen YubiKey, and I've mentioned that multiple times here. I have a fifth gen around here somewhere. It's probably not new anymore, but it has NFC on it. I've never actually used the NFC uh, on my phone because I don't have work stuff on my phone, and I don't have a reason to carry around a YubiKey. I don't carry around keys, so my car doesn't have a car key anymore. That may change if I change my car up in the next few years. So, yeah. Um, so close that. So let's go back to this. Novel attack. FIDO spec was designed to mitigate precisely these sorts of scenarios by requiring users to provide an additional factor of auth, right, in the form of a security key or a pass key or a physical key such as a smartphone or a dedicated device such as a YubiKey. Um, the first gen that I have there that I showed y'all, it won't do FIDO. That's how old it is. It predates. I think I got it in 20. I was working at Ultra Electronics at the time, so it was 20 anywhere between 2010 to 2012. I think I got it from Paul Security Weekly when they were giving them one. Physical security key, such as a smartphone. Yeah, the pass key must use a unique cryptographic key embedded in the device. Also by signing in the event no pass key on the device is used to log in, user can use a pass key for the site that's already resident on a different device, which is most likely right. Um, yeah, Google does that stuff a lot, but I have a lot of problems with it. Sometimes it won't. It keeps wanting me to register, but I have multiple Google accounts, and it won't recognize my computer as being the device that I need to log into, and then I run into issues. So, I still have my MFA, I still have my authentication on my phone. Uh, how FIDO makes such attacks impossible? Bill seems to have encountered it downgraded with some weaker MFA form, right? Likely this weaker auth was similar to those used to log into Netflix or a YouTube account with a phone. Assuming this was the case, the person who administered the organization's page would have had to deliberately chose to allow the. Ooh, okay. Okay, so this is something that wasn't gleaned from Expel, which you're getting from Ars Technica. Assuming this was the case, the person who administered the organization's Okta login page would have had to deliberately choose to allow this fallback to a weaker form of MFA. As such, the attack is more accurately classified as a downgrade, not a bypass. Okay, and that is an interesting thing. If they deliberately chose that, it could be because users, those keys are not cheap. Let me see. YubiKey purchase. All right. So, okay. So, well, they're $25. YubiKey 5, if you go, all out, $50 at Best Buy. If you want the 5C, it's going to be $65. US, this is all US. If you need an old school Apple one that uses either or connections, like if you have an older iPhone, it uses the old Apple connection, or you have the one USB-C, that's $75. I like these. These are actually. Do I have that one? No, I have this one. I have a Nano. Not bad. Not bad. This is the super tiny one. I would lose that one. This little hole here where you put it on a key ring, you'll lose that shit. Don't give these to people. Okay? Seriously, do not give these to people. Especially if they take them out and like, oh, I've got this, on this little tiny nylon piece of string and shit. That'll break and you'll lose that thing. I lost one of those. Yeah, don't use that. So these are not cheap for IT. Like, if you've got 100 people in your company times $60, so you're looking at $6,000, but they lose them. Especially if you're giving them this piece of shit here with this little piddly hole and like a little nylon string or whatever. They're gonna lose them. So maybe the cheaper option, or maybe you have a contractor or somebody who's going to be around for 2 months. You don't want to give them one of these keys because you can provision them or you can repurpose them. You have that second option, so use a phone or something like that. So, or maybe the CEO is a Luddite and doesn't understand technology, and I just want to use my phone, and I'm going to use my phone to authenticate because I don't want to lose it, or whatever. Yeah, I have the USB-C one here. I have the USB-A one, not the USB-C one here. But I mean, some users not technically savvy. Maybe they lose them. Maybe Bob's on his fifth one. and it's like, hey Bob, maybe you don't lose it. Maybe you don't lose your keys, or maybe you don't leave it at the at the conference or whatever. That's another thing too. If you lose them at a conference or something, you got to delete those keys. Anyway, I'm rambling a little bit, but that was interesting to get this kind of insight here. This is a downgrade attack, so it is very much like the TLS downgrade attacks, where you can get it to go from 1.4 down to 1.1. You can do Oracle padding, or you can do TLS exhaustion, or any of that other shit that people think you can do, but I've never actually seen any real world experience with that. And oh, coming down to here. Oh, okay. Um, so yeah, good insights here from the Ars Technica folk. If you want to read more about that, go read it. There. Okay. Uh, but yeah, the fact that the administrator of the Okta would have had to deliberately choose that, and of course, as we saw from the blog post, you know, sure, you can use that, but you're going to have your phone tethered to your computer, so that way we know that you're doing that thing. This could be a lack of knowledge from the person who administers the Okta site. So there's a lot going on here, but it is definitely a downgrade attack versus a bypass. But it is good to know that Okta does have those controls. Like, hey, if you're going to use this, here's the risks, here's the mitigations, right? If you choose not to implement those mitigations, then that is another problem, right? Okay. You're spot on with identifying that we invoked a specific meaning with the authentication in place and did not intend to do so. This is not a key bypass; it's a downgrade attack. Oh, so that's cool that Expel, contacted back. So this feels like a very, between Dan Gooden at Ars Technica and Expel. So it's very much a, not a gotcha kind of thing. It's that's good. I didn't see any kind of method or add on to the original articles. So maybe they just haven't added it yet. End users should take pains to use only FIDO compliant forms of authentication. You often don't have a choice there, Dan Gooden. You're going to use whatever IT has available. The cheapest is SMS2FA. That's what you're going to use. Although the distinction between the two and the attack expelled described may not be easy for some. Meanwhile, people relying on passkeys. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and be vigilant. It would be nice if there was some kind of browser plugin that you could say, this domain is only 7 days old. Maybe that's something somebody can build. Or like, oh, you go into a website and the domain is 7 days old or something. Maybe it does a lookup on when it got created or something. So to go back to more malware, a 158-year-old company in the UK. Now, I don't agree with this asshole article here. But a 158-year-old company forced to close after ransomware attack precipitated by single guest password. 700 jobs lost after hackers demand unpayable sum. That is clickbaiting because it's not that it was unpayable. Well, there's more, but anyway, right. Excellent. So so this is when I read this a couple of days ago. They didn't have any updates on this. So this UK company, nice of old, 158-year history. I'm assuming they started on like actual wooden wagons and shit. They're from Northamptonshire. Apologies if I didn't say that right. Northamptonshire. I assume the H is kind of gone. But I think Next DNS has an option not to use domains that are too young, less than X-based. That's a great control right there. Next DNS. Yeah, or if it does a DNS check and you're like, hey, this if the DNS provider is one that says, hey, this is a 7-day old domain from GOGGOLE or whatever like that. You're not looking at that. That is a nice control where you can say, wait a minute, why is this why is this saying, hey, it's only 7 days? Oh, I'm trying to go to ukta.com, or something like that. That stopped me from doing something stupid because, it would be nice if we could throw up errors like that. Like if Tom's hardware was spelled wrong or something, and it's like you clicked on this link, but you're going to something that isn't Tom's hardware or it's several days old. It's not a panacea. If you're a bad guy, you'll just hold on to that until like a month has gone by before you start using these attacks, which I know. Um, that's one of those things you're gonna, reputation is built, right? But it's like you're gonna hold on to it, save it for a rainy day. Your GOGGOLE or whatever, website. I've had it for a year. It's gonna look legit. But it's yet another thing, right? Like the article that we mentioned, they said that that domain was 7 days old. That would have been a nice way of, not, it would stop a lot of consultancies too. They're using those for like, using a custom domain for, a phishing attempt or something like that. That would require them to kind of curate or create, long-term domains that they could use for phishing. Um, Internet connected criminals gained access to KNP, which is Knights of what? Knights of Old is KNP. That must be their publicly traded company or handy. So they have 500 trucks. They're now off the road. 700 people have lost their jobs due to money grasping cybers. Who the hell wrote this article? Come on, man. Come on, Mark. Come on, dude. Money grasping cyber attackers. Named Akira in a BBC report. um, so they gained access to KNP's internet systems via a weak password that was used by one of the employees at the firm. Actually, the password was so weak it was simply guessed correctly, it is thought. Okay, so it is unfortunate that a user had the ability to create a password that was so weak that it could be guessed correctly. Now, I will not say to this point that that was the company's Achilles heel. There's a lot of things that the IT department at the 150-year-old company with 700 people could have done to address that issue. I think there's enough blame for everybody to go around. Password policy, have some 2FA, have some MFA, give everybody some YubiKeys. Naturally, KMP doesn't want to name a specific employee because it wasn't necessarily their fault. If anything, KMP should have been enforcing password policy, which they didn't do. On it, plus it was on a system that was publicly available or in such a way, and we don't know their infrastructure. This could have been a legacy system. It could have been an FTP system. It could have been a service account, but they had a password policy or not enforced a password policy that was so weak that it allowed that. My feeling, my thought might be that legacy software, like a mainframe account, I've seen passwords that were so convoluted where you couldn't have more than 8 characters because that account was also used to maybe access databases or ancient legacy systems. Of course, that one employee could also have been the CEO, who's like, like Liverpool or Northampton, sure, football club or something like that. But I would say that there's a lot of mistakes that were made that caused KMP to go down. Now, the ransom note says if you're reading this, it means that your internal infrastructure is fully or partially dead. Let's keep all the tears and resentment to ourselves and try to build a construction. Ah. Oh God, that's great. Why? Oh, There's a panorama documentary released this week. Okay, that must be like a show on BBC television or something. Uh, Reporter Richard Bilton investigates online crimeware and meets the secret agents trying to stop hackers. Has been given exclusive access to spies on the front line. Okay, all right. Okay. That made me dumber just reading that. So they investigated the malware demand with the help of a firm, which estimated the monetary demands could be as high as $5 million. All right, $5 million, 6.474 million in U.S. currency. I'm sorry, 5 million pounds and 6.7 million. Some was well beyond the means of KNP, a documentary noting the company simply didn't have the money. Now. It's my understanding. I had read this on. Let me see. Um, I had read. Let me see. Knights of Old. Knights of Old valuation. Oh, so here's something. Okay, so this is brand new. I didn't actually know that this existed. So, um, Knights of Old salutatory lesson for all businesses. They had insurance. So despite significant IT spend, they had 1,000 pounds annually. Basic hygiene had broken down in key areas. Right, or password. Okay, so thank you. I just looked this up, so I have no idea what's going on here. So by September, okay, so this is from last year. Okay, so wait a minute. Maybe they just finished dissolving. Yeah, it looks like maybe they just finished dissolving. Uh, yeah, okay, so this happened 2 years ago, but they do finally just went through administration apparently, and they're done. Um, a litany of systemic control failures. Right, they had significant IT spend, 100,000 pounds annually. Cyber hygiene had broken down in key areas. Poor password practices. Password, well, not just password reuse, but dark web monitoring. Okay, they probably sell something. So just keep an eye out on. I'm sure it's their insurance management can monitor the dark web for you and all that shit. But failure to use encrypted passwords. Okay, so they say may have prevented IT systems breach. Okay, MFA uncertainty. So they don't know if they used MFA or not. Maybe sounds like they didn't. Um, Inadequate backups, collapse points, non-recoverable. Yeah, no backups. Again, going back to the AI folks, if that was a legitimate company that lost it due to AI, where's the backups, right? Yeah. Okay. So they had £1 million cyber insurance, which would not have covered the ransomware. Even if it did, I'm sure the insurance company would be like, "How did they get in?" Well, they used the password that was 4 characters long. Uh, were weak controls flagged during underwriting? If so, driving it, yeah, right. So, were the risks flagged? Hey, you've got a person over here with 6 character password. Yeah, that's cool. It's the CEO. We're all right with that. Okay, well, now you're going to pay extra for the premium. Uh, oh, hold on. Okay. Um, yeah. So what I was looking for was like how the valuation of Knights of Old. Let's see, they were okay. So according to Pomanda, which I've never heard of before, they have a health rating of 2.5 out of 5. So uh, they're 511 days late. Valuation. There we go. So they had uh, turnover. So 94.5 million pounds. The company has assets of 4.7 million. Okay, so maybe they couldn't afford to pay that. They had cash reserves of only £500,000 sterling. Uh, yeah, so Okay, I had read on I had seen on Reddit where they said it was like 5.4 billion pounds sterling of like money, and I'm glad I found this because it looks like they did not have that. That was a fairly large chunk of change that they did not have there. So yeah, they were. Yeah, that's rough. That is rough. Um, so yeah, it doesn't. It looks like that they maybe did not have $5 million to give away. Um, maybe even if the CEO had gone without being paid or something like that. Um, that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. Let me see financials. Let's see if we can figure out group directors accounts. Okay, so yeah, about 700 people are and looks like they had some debt on the balance as well. So they had some loans. Being a shipping company, they probably are still trying to. I wouldn't say still trying to recover, but they may have had some issues at post pandemic that they couldn't get around. Um, so yeah, yeah, Alexander Abbott. Okay, so some of these folks are not young anymore, but yeah, so yeah, if they only have net assets was only 4.7 million, they were asking for more than they had, I think, in this case, or maybe they asked for that knowing that that was going to put them out of business. Could be any number of things. Um, wow, 5 million, yeah, 5 million, 5 million pounds, well beyond the means of KMP. Yeah, that's unfortunate. So this is definitely a cautionary tale, especially if you're a small or medium business. I would say this is a small or medium business, even though they had 700 people. Uh, this is um, this is a cautionary tale. Um, this would be something you would want to stick in your back pocket and go, look, we don't want to be this company because passwords are a thing. No MFA. Uh, you can kind of read some of the write up on this if you like. I'm sure I'll put that in here. There we go. Uh, yeah, that's too bad. That kind of sucks. Um, I don't like the idea of blaming this one employee because we don't know who that employee was. I'm imagining it's like the CEO because he's the CEO who's going to have 6 character password. Could be anybody in the company. Um, I mean, it really lends itself to the 100,000 pounds a year in IT spend is not a lot depending on the size of the company. I mean, if you were a Fortune 10 company, that's a pittance. You probably find that in your couch cushions, or you spend that on Splunk daily or yearly, monthly. Um, there could have been other things they could have done. One password should not have shut the whole company down. So it's somebody could have been the IT admin with a weak password. Do as they say, not as they do. They may have had a password requirement for everybody in the company. IT guy, I can override that. I'm going to put a 4 character password or something like that. Or, go Spurs or something like that was the password. Um, that's Tottenham Hotspur. I don't know, but it could have been anything. But, that's unfortunate. So, so speaking of passwords that are weak or being able to just give passwords away. Oh God, I hate this one. I hate this one so much. So Clorox, the company that makes bleach stuff, cleaners, things like that. According to Reuters, they accuse an IT provider in a lawsuit of giving hackers employee passwords. And of course, I'll give you a hint about who the IT service provider is. It's one of the largest IT service providers in the world. It's Cognizant. Yes, yes, Cognizant, rather large IT services company. Had a little history with them. Uh, Pretty much, they turned into one of the companies that I was working at. Thankfully, they didn't take my job. They took a bunch of support people that I worked with. Um, Several people had been at the parent company for 10, 15 years, a few years away from retirement, and you can keep your job, but you're coming back as a day one employee of Cognizant, which means you're going to lose 15 years of, you know, work and equity built up in the organization, and you're going to start over again. So, you were close to a retirement, fuck you. And so they got to be Cognizant employees until they trained their replacements, and then they got fired themselves. So that was a few years ago. So that was like 2013, 2014. But still, it is what it is. So Clorox is suing Cognizant, suggesting that in a 2023 cyber attack that they had, hackers gained advantage of access to a company by calling up the tech company staff and asking for passwords. God damn it. Clorox was one of several major companies hit by a group called Scattered Spider. I think we've talked about them before. At least in the when we do the threat intelligence briefs, they are an organization. Yes, they hit MGM, they hit Caesars. This is back in 2023, so this is fairly well known. Palo Alto Networks got hacked as well during that one. Oh no, I'm sorry. Strike that, reverse it. They were hearing a flurry of companies, so Unit 42 heard about them. Scattered Spider, Muddled Libra, UNC 3944, Caesars, and MGM. So you remember that a few years ago. I want to say that happened during Black Hat and DEF CON. Wait. Yeah, I think that happened just before or just after Black Hat and DEF CON, and may or may not have some kind of bearing in why DEF CON got moved from Rio and Caesars in that area. They hit many more companies, and CrowdStrike was talking about them as well. 52 attacks globally. Mandiant also, Google's Mandiant, logged more than 100 intrusions in the past 2 years. Here's some of their hit list of all over the place: Australia, Japan, Switzerland, UK, France, Brazil, Canada. So there you go. Every industry from telecoms to finance to hospitality to media. And Reuters has not been able to determine how much money the hackers may have extorted. So they love them some money, I tell you. In this case, Scattered Spider called up help desk and said, "Hi, give me a password." Joe Bob Billy, and Cognizant said, "Sure." So apparently it's fairly contentious because even Cognizant responded to they said, according to a copy of the lawsuit reviewed by Reuters, Cognizant was not duped by any elaborate ploy or sophisticated hacking techniques. I wouldn't call them sophisticated if they could just call up and get the passwords. Clorox said one of Scattered Spider's hackers was able to repeatedly steal employee passwords by simply asking for them. This is not sophisticated. That's right. They were not duped by any elaborate ploy or sophisticated hacking techniques. They literally just called the help desk and said, "I need my password." And Cognizant said, "Yeah, sure, here you go." At least that's what the lawsuit says. Cybercriminal just called the service desk, asked for credentials, Clorox network, and Cognizant handed the credentials right over. Cognizant, an email statement pushed back saying it did not manage cybersecurity for Clorox and it was only hired for limited help desk services. Okay, so still help desk services, which is password resets, user provisioning boxes, maybe, that kind of thing. Cognizant's PR folks said they tried to blame us for the failures. Reality is Clorox hired Cognizant for a narrow scope of help desk services, which Cognizant reasonably performed. I'm sure they did. Cognizant is saying, well, we don't do security. We only do IT. It's in our name. And so we're not responsible, or you can't blame us for hackers calling us up asking for passwords, assuming that's what happened. Suit was not immediately visible on the public docket in Superior Court of Alameda County, that's up in the Bay Area, San Francisco, California. Clorox provided Reuters with a receipt for the lawsuit from the court. Breach transcripts included a lawsuit. In the lawsuit, allegedly showed conversations between the hacker and Cognizant support staff, in which the intruder asks to have passwords reset. The support staff complies without verifying who they're talking to. For example, by quizzing them on their employee identification number or their manager's name. I don't have a password, so I can't connect, the hacker says in one call. The agent replies, oh, okay, let me provide the password to you. Oh my god. The apparent ease with which the hackers got what they wanted wasn't necessarily an indication that they weren't skilled, that Maxie Reynolds, an expert who is specialized in social engineering, is not party to the case. They just tried what typically works, right? I mean, you know, that's unfortunate. And to Cognizant's point, it wasn't sophisticated. They were not elaborately duped. It's just that fucking simple. Reynolds said that the full transcripts were needed to offer a fair evaluation of what happened in 2023, but said that all they had to do was call and ask straight out. That's not social engineering, and it is negligence or non-fulfillment of duty. I can't shake my head hard enough on that. It is not sophisticated. The hack at Clorox caused, okay, that's 380 million US in damages, 50 million of which was tied to remedial costs, and the rest attributable to Clorox's inability to ship products to retailers. Goodness. Clorox said cleanup was hampered by other failures by Cognizant staff, including failure to deactivate certain accounts or properly restore data. Okay, so narrow IT support sounds like backups. They were failed to properly restore data, which means they either didn't know how to, or the backups didn't work, or they just didn't do backups at all. Don't know. It's any one of those things. Failure to deactivate certain accounts. Okay, provisioning users, deprovisioning users when they leave the company, deprovisioning Cognizant employees when they leave the company or they stop working at that organization is another problem. Or, as I have heard a story from people. I'm not saying it is Cognizant related, but I have heard that certain IT supply organizations will sometimes allow passwords and usernames to be used by people who are new. So, like if John has a login, John1, and the password is, I love me some John, and John leaves the company, instead of provisioning a new account for a new employee, Bob comes in, takes over John's account, especially if Bob is taking over John's position. I'm not saying any specific IT services companies have ever done anything like that, but I have heard some apocryphal stories where that might have been the case. I'm not going to confirm or deny that. I'm just saying I've heard things like that happening. And I'm not saying that that happened where I was working with Cognizant, because I wasn't aware of anything that's happening there. Just to cover my own ass there. But that sucks. Yeah, I mean, you go to DEF CON and you get involved with the SECTF, and you're like, oh, I've got to get all these flags and figure out how to do these things. You can just call up Cognizant. Hey, I need a password, and they're like, okay, sure. The problem is their customer service, right? And I would imagine that their metrics are often based on how well they're doing as a company or an organization. And if somebody complains to Clorox head of contracting that, hey, they're not doing a good job, they're not giving me good customer support, they're a pain in the ass to work with, there are probably certain metrics that will cause them to have problems. So IT staffing companies might have metrics based on customer satisfaction scores. Might also have, like most call center type metrics, would be how long you're spending on support calls. If your average is 4 minutes and you're at 3.5 minutes, and the hacker's like, well, I can't get in, I don't have a password, and you're looking at your clock and it's 3.5 minutes, you're like, shit, I need to figure out how to get this guy off my phone so that I can keep my metrics proper. You might run into something where the support person might say, I will give you what you want so you can get off my phone so that you don't ruin my metrics for the day. I'm not saying that that's what happened here. I'm just saying that there are metrics like that for call centers and for tech support people. Sorry, my wife is not here, so I am making sure that she is okay. Uh, great, great. So that is unfortunate. Usually we see these kinds of breaches, and you get your Mandiant letter from Mandiant saying that this sophisticated attack. If this is true and comes out to be that way, Cognizant's going to be on the hook for what potential damages of in excess of you know 380 million plus X number of dollars. Just going to show my window here. See, my lawn guys show up at 8:30 in the morning, not at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's too bad for them. So do I have another meeting? No, that's that one. This is the deserialization thing. This is the SharePoint bit. So that is all the news that I have. So um, yeah, this one sucked. I mean, it didn't suck because Las Vegas Convention Center is a much better venue for DEF CON than I think the hotels were. If you've ever been to DEF CON, I guess in previous years, having to walk in 100 fucking degree weather for shit is a little rough. So having um, okay. But yeah, this is unfortunate because they spend money on premiums. To go back to the Knights of Old folks, they paid for those premiums every year with the idea that the ransomware insurance or the cyber insurance was going to help them. And either the hackers knew they had cyber insurance and decided to up the cost, right? Or um, yeah, they paid all these premiums every month for this to not even work. So ultimately, it didn't save the business. Yeah, because $1 million wasn't enough, so they undervalued themselves, right? They should have had maybe 10, $15 million cyber insurance policy, but maybe the the cyber insurance premiums were too much. Um, Too bad. Too bad. I think if you're going to have cyber insurance, you need to keep in mind the going cost of a ransomware attack, how much and really this is going to motivate your teams to implement some legitimate security controls, password complexity, MFA. Um, I don't know enough about cyber insurance to know, but if it seems to me like when you buy car insurance, if you have anti-theft system, if you have um, window etching on your stuff, you get you get stuff taken off for that, like, oh, it's extra security, or that's extra, they can track your car, or they can find you, or they can disable your vehicle if you have a remote kill switch or something like that. In this case, it sounds like they thought $1 million was going to be enough. It was some percentage of value of their um, uh, organization, but apparently it wasn't enough. So, and it could be maybe that was all they could afford at the time too. So there's that. Um, but yeah, it sounds like this has been going on for a couple of years, and they just finally decided to, because it was. It was reported. Uh, yeah. Anyway, let's see. What else? Do we have anything? Ooh, faster key charging. Great. Okay. Voice systems. Critical MyTel flaw allows hackers to bypass login and gain full access to MX1. I think I'm assuming those are voice systems. VoIP systems. Yeah, VoIP systems. You can get yourself a fancy ass useless phone that probably runs Android on the screen there. Those are fun, by the way. You can install Firefox on them. You know, he has a full browser and everything. At least not maybe not that phone, but I've tested IP phones that have ran Android. One, they're running like an ancient ass version of Android. The other one is you can install software on it, like Firefox browser, and then download and sideload APKs with that. It's just awful. It's just awful. Uh, GitHub. What did it say? GitHub's Spark. What was that? GitHub. I saw that. Where was it? Oh, there it is. GitHub's A-powered Spark. Oh, lets you build apps using natural language. I'm okay. I'm okay. Yeah, to our friend Walt over here. You know, I feel like maybe Boots is probably a good coding AI. I would be wondering about like using Copilot or whatever to build something. How efficient it is at working. Uh, versus what's the experience when you're using an AI that isn't something dedicated directly for boot.dev or whatever to work in. Maybe that's something I'll play with at some point. Uh, New Kosk Linux malware. Hey, you know what? There's been a lot of malware recently. A lot of like Linux malware, and I don't know if that's because threat actors are starting to realize that there are organizations out there that are Windows 10 and they don't want to go to Windows 11, or the um, user share of Linux is building. But there's seems to be an influx of Linux malware in the past couple months, 2 3 months. New Linux malware named Koske, developed with AI and using seemingly benign JPEG images of panda bears. That's creepy. I'm looking at this and that's like nightmare fuel. I can't look at that. I'm just gonna scroll that up a little bit. Oh, that was a little better. That was nice. This one kind of reminded me of like Tron or something, or Donnie Darko or something. Sophisticated. It's sophisticated with two H's. Linux threat based on observed adaptive behavior. Researchers believe the malware was developed using LLMs or automation frameworks. Purposes to deploy CPU and GPU optimized cryptocurrency miners. Yay! Use the host's computational resources to mine over 18 distinct coins. 18 distinct coins. Damn. Aquasec identified Serbia-based IP addresses using the attacks, Serbian phrases in the scripts, and a Slovak language in the GitHub repo hosting the miners, but could make no confident attribution. So they're trying to say it looks like a duck, talks like a duck, it walks like a duck. Might not be a duck, could be an elephant. Just they don't want to make any suggestions. The problem is I don't know of any Serbian threat actors like Scattered Spider or whatever. So they're gonna have to figure out what they're gonna use for the attribution name for these threat actors. Could just be people doing it for the lulz. I don't know. Initial access is leveraged by leveraging misconfigurations in Jupyter Lab instances exposed online to achieve command execution. Okay, so you're exposing your Jupyter Lab instances online. You are going to run into some issues, or learn to patch your stuff, or put it behind some authentication layer, or I don't know what the misconfigurations are in this case. Maybe it's something that's bad. To gain a foothold, they download two JPEGs hosted on legitimate services like OVH Images, Free Image, or Post Image. The pictures hide most payloads, sort of like steganography, right? Aquasec underlines that, did not use steganography. Oh, okay. Interesting. Well, how did that work? They relied on polyglot files. Oh, okay. Polyglot files. Interesting. The same file is interpreted as both an image and a script, depending on the application that opens or processes it. Right, right, right. It's interesting. Huh. Let's look at the polyglot and see what that means. Um, the UNK Crafty Camel. Okay, the campaign is small. It started in October 2024. Single file is structured as both a valid MSI and a jar file. Oh, I see. I see. Very interesting. Well, I mean that was one example that this threat actor used, but to their point, it looks like it's a JPEG and a script or something. Um, JPEG and a C code. Okay. They include a malicious shell script and C code at the end. So right on, right on. User opening them will see a cute panda. Script interpreter will execute the shell code. Okay. Assuming they send that by email or something. The attacks Aquasec discovered hide one payload in each image, both launched in parallel. One payload is C code written directly in memory, compiled and executed as a shared object (SO) file, functions as a rootkit. Second is a shell script also executed from memory, which uses standard system utilities to run stealthily and maintain persistence while leaving few visible traces. Shell script is executed directly in memory by abusing native Linux utilities, establishing persistence. So they have lol bins too, right? They have lol binaries or lol SO files that they can use to hide or whatever. Establishing persistence via cron jobs or scheduled tasks like Windows has that run every 30 minutes. And custom system D services. Oh shit. Okay. I don't know how many people actually know how to use system D. I don't. So if they buried that in system D, I'd never be able to find that, to be honest. Also performs network hardening. Oh, so it hardens for you. Okay. And proxy evasion, overriding resolve.conf use Cloudflare and Google DNS. Oh, and they lock the DNS files. Ooh, interesting. Interesting. Huh. Resetting proxy variables and using a custom module to brute force working proxies via curl, wget, and raw TCP checks. Okay. Okay. So that means um, it uses specific cloud. That is interesting. Wow. Oh, flushing IP tables. Flushing IP tables will get rid of it like DNS records, those things. And by locking resolve.conf, once a network is reestablished, then it's going to use the custom DNS and you can't change it. I wonder if it's, well, I mean, you're going to run as user or you're going to run as root. So it might be running as root. Or it lock out everything. So even root wouldn't be able to address that. Rootkit filters based on strings like cosk, hide proc, and reading hidden PIDs from dev shim hidden PID. Okay. You think that Linux malware will be easier to find, but they hide this stuff in really interesting places. Dev shim, uh, you know, locking the resolve.conf so your Cloudflare and Google DNS are gone. I mean, you can't even delete them, I think, with chatter.i. So, um, let's see. Chatter that plus I is useful for protection from accidental deletion by root. Okay, so it's an immutable file, cannot be renamed or moved from one directory to another. Thank you, Stack Overflow. There you go. Um, This is the command used to change attributes on a Linux file system. Plus I is the option that is immutable. You would replace this with the actual file name you want to make immutable. To remove the immutable attribute, to allow modifications of the file, you would need to remove the immutable attribute using the -i. Hmm. See, that's okay. So my thinking is that all of this stuff is. imminently discoverable inside Windows or Linux, right? Um, so okay, let's. All right, so you have bash RC, okay, bash logout, right? Um, desktop auto start. Little unsure about what that is. It's ERC local, okay. They're going to put things in all of these things, right? In shell service, that would be the system D. So um, interesting. System D would, yeah, and cron tabs, so scheduled tasks. So um, I would equate system D in this case to very much like the registry. It gets, Etsy local, you'd be like, you're going to add a registry key so that when it on startup, it's going to run and you put the registry key in there. In this case, it creates a service there. So you could find all of these things, including the chatter-i. You realize, you can't change the Cloudflare, you can't change etsy.com. You might, you could, if you're root and you become root, you could unlock it. Now, if the malware is such that it would change root's password once it has gained persistence, locking you out and removing you from sudo, that would be a way to, assuming you're doing it right and you're not logging in as root, right? Um, if you gain persistence on this box, you could abuse the native Linux utilities. I would change root's password. I would remove you from sudo, um, which makes the user unable to become root. You can't su minus because you don't know root's password at this point, and change chatter and lock the DNS entry. Flush IP tables. You get a new IP address, but then using a custom module brute force working proxies. Okay. Um, hmm. This type of adaptability and behavior is what led Aquasec researchers to suspect threat actor developed the malware either with help of LLM or automation platform. Automation platform, yeah, that would make sense because you're using those specific tools and things. Yeah, and it uses LD preload to override readd directory function, hitting the malware-related process. Okay, um, so you may not be able to find those items, right? It will hide those if you went ls. You won't see the entries in Etsy local. You are RC local. You won't see service if you looked in wherever system D services are located. Um, your cron tab may be gone, or the cron tab may be root's cron tab, which means you wouldn't have access to it anyway, depending on how much it's actually screwing the pooch here. Your bash RC may disappear, so you go, oh, I don't know where that is, and like I don't know if that would mean you wouldn't even be able to like view it. They may take the I wouldn't say they take the read attribute away, but yeah, they could remove that. This is cool. For deployment, the GPU and CPU are evaluated to determine which miner will be the most efficient. 18 different coins, including Monero, Ravencoin, Zano, Nexa, and Tari. Okay, well, I haven't heard of half of those, but I'm not a crypto bro, so. If the coin or mining pool becomes unavailable, the malware automatically switches to a backup. Okay, cool. This looks great. AI-powered malware Mikoski is already concerning. Future variants may leverage real-time adaptability, molding into a far more dangerous class of threats. Yeah, so I mean, if you run out of crypto to mine, you may become a C2. I mean, and it seems like if you use something like LD preload, you might, your resolve.conf goes to Cloudflare, which could, allow you to use the DNS entries from Cloudflare and Google DNS to be C2 in this case. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. Of course, I may be talking out my ass here too, but Warren's dead, farmer doing, yeah. Okay, good job, Bill. This is a nice little write-up. I didn't expect that to happen. Anyway, Um, I think I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna kick off here. It is, yeah, 5 o'clock my time. I need to go have some dinner. Um, got a long weekend ahead of me. Got, uh, I mean, I got nothing to do, but I've got some video editing I had to do for my other things. So it's been a little bit since Peerless Gamer came out, so I'm going to be working on that. Maybe do another session of that this weekend. So if you were interested in solo role playing games, come join me over on Peerless Gamer. Um, Peerless Gamer, ding, that's me right there. So I'm actually running Freeport, which is from Green Ronin Games. Green Ronin Publishing. They also have the Expanse RPG, which I think I have. If I didn't kickstart it, then I definitely bought it already. Weird. Um, so, let's see, Green Ronin Freeport. There you go. So I originally started this with the Fate version of Freeport, which I have. I kickstarted it. Again, weird. Um, the problem I'm having, and if you're not a fan of RPGs and stuff, please feel free to go find another stream or something like that. But I'm I read a lot of this stuff and I want to do this stuff, but the problem is finding a group is a pain in the ass. Um, so I started playing with Fate, and then I realized that um, it doesn't work as well as you think it might for solo role players. So I'm kind of, I don't want to say stepping away from it, but I'm moving away from Fate to more D20, whether that be Pathfinder or 5e or whatever. Um, and so my character, Nathan Monkwin, and his boss, Bexley, are going to find out who stole a tome which contains a ritual or contains some things in it that could be detrimental to the world of Ecovian, which is where Freeport exists. Actually, I think Freeport actually exists somewhere specifically in the source books, but there's so much stuff out there having to do with pirates and ships and things like that. I can want to incorporate like 7th and some of those items in there as well. Also, one of my magic systems is very similar to Pokemon. So Nathan has in his possession some crystals that he is attempting to get identified, but they hold either mana or they're empty and they need to be engraved or they need to be controlled. They need to have runes on them. But a couple of them actually have wisp energy, which go watch this if you want to understand what wisps are. And but the idea is they're also going to be able to collect kaiju, if you will, and he's going to fight with them at some point. That's in the plan. To get to that point, which means I have to kind of railroad myself using rolls, but I'm a dice geek, so I have a nice big fat D20 here that I'm using. Uh, it's just so that's a D20. As all of these dice from Flying Horse Duck are fairly large sized. Um, this is a 31 millimeter D20, and it is heavy. It's amethyst, so um, but it's good. Anyway, um, yeah, I will. I don't see any reason why I won't be on next week, and I think we're going to be on Sunday the 3rd. So I've already got that going on for me. But I hope you have a good rest of your week, good weekend, and try to not turn red from being sunburnt. I'm going to try to fix that. Yeah, take care of yourselves and have a good rest of your day. Okay? We'll talk soon. Bye, y'all.